Hey, 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 today we're talking about sugar cravings. So we're just going to give the video a few minutes while Facebook runs out and tells everybody that we're having this video. And we're going to talk about sugar cravings, and I'm going to give you, today we're going to talk about sugar cravings. I'm going to give you two tangible things with sugar cravings that I want you to really think about. So today's video lesson is going to be on sugar cravings because I know so many of you guys are really struggling with sugar cravings. I also am going to do a Q&A after I do this small little training for you, answering some of your questions live like I normally do. I have about 10 of them this week. Some of them are about the same thing though, so we'll probably be able to move through those quickly. So if you are watching this video and you have a question and you didn't fill out the form before the video, just drop it in the comments and I'll answer them at the end when I see them come through. Again, my name is Megan Olson, nutrition practitioner. I help women over 35 lose 20 to 50 or more pounds for good. Okay, so today we're going to talk about cravings, right? And I know that there is a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. Things are changing every day, every minute sometimes. So we're going through a lot of stress here. So the first thing I want to tell you is give yourself some grace, okay? Don't be beating yourself up. Don't be making yourself feel guilty because we're all going through a really hard time and we're dealing with it the best way that we can. Now, if you're a woman who's over 35, you have 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, this might be a really tricky time for you, right? Because you may or may not have noticed that food is something that you have used throughout your lifetime to cope with, or maybe recently to cope with. And it's something that can be a self-sabotaging behavior, right? You want to lose weight, you want to feel great, you want to feel amazing and fantastic, yet you have this behavior where you turn to sugar and overeat certain foods. So right now, before we get started, we're going to talk about sugar cravings and what's going on with sugar cravings, and I'm going to give you two concrete solutions to your sugar cravings that you can implement right now. But before we even talk about sugar cravings, for those of you watching, tell me in the comments, when you think of the word craving, what comes to your mind? What immediately pops into your head? Just tell me in the comments, whatever it is. Mac and cheese, it can be a food, it can be sugar, it can be whatever. Out of control, a feeling. Tell me what craving means to you, okay? And before we go on as well, I want to remind you that I am going to be doing a larger training class on sugar cravings in the next week. So there's a link right above this video. And before I forget, because I might forget by the end of this, make sure you click that link to get on the wait list for that training class. It's going to be a live training class, and there is not going to be a replay for that training. It's going to be more in-depth on this topic. So make sure you sign up for that training class, okay? I don't want you guys to miss it because I know so many of you are struggling right now. Okay, so right now you should be writing in the comments what comes to your mind when you think of the word cravings. What pops into your head? Let's see what you guys are writing. Okay, nobody is writing anything. Okay, that's great. So sometimes people think of, brownies, cookies, sugar cravings, out of control, ugly, fat, bloated. Those might be some of the words that you're thinking about. And if you're thinking of those words, just know that you are very normal for thinking those words, okay? And this goes back to what I said earlier. Give yourself some appreciation and grace in this hard time. Don't be beating yourself up, okay? So let's talk about cravings. Cravings come from two places, okay? And if you're watching this, tell me in the comments which one of these places you think it might be coming from for you. So one of two places was where cravings come from: physical hunger or emotional hunger, okay? Which one of those do you think yours is coming from? If you're physically hungry, your stomach is growling, you might have a little bit of a headache because you feel hungry, you're low energy, you might be feeling tired, maybe a little dehydrated. That's physical hunger. So do you think your cravings are coming from physical hunger for the most part, or do you think that they're mostly coming from something emotional? Emotional means you have a strong urge or desire to eat something for comfort, and probably have built a habit around eating that comfort food in a certain way. And usually the emotion that is associated with that can be, from excitement to fear to sadness, anxiety, depression, sense of loss, feeling lonely, boredom. All of those feelings can be really tied into that. Now, if you're watching, tell me in the comments which one you are. Are you physically hungry or are you emotionally feeling hungry? Okay. If you're emotionally hungry, I want you to know, first of all, it is normal to seek comfort when we're not feeling great. And right now is an unprecedented time that many of us have never gone through, and we're not feeling very great, are we? Right? Many of us are feeling anxious. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know, when we're going to be back to our normal lives and be able to go hug our friends and family, go to the gym. We don't know any of that stuff. So it's a very normal time for us to be seeking comfort. And food is the most readily available thing for comfort, right? There's junk food and all kinds of food everywhere, snacks, all those things, right? I don't see any limitation of snacks at the store, right? So if you're overweight and you have 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose and you're female, you may realize that this coping mechanism is a slippery slope for you, right? Using the comfort food and creating a habit to eat the comfort food when you feel a certain way. Right? I myself am a recovering binge eater, and I have found myself over the last few weeks diving into the chips and the chocolate a couple times. But I was really able to stop myself. And the reason I was able to stop myself was not because of my weight or how I look, but because of how I want to feel. I focus fiercely on how I want to feel. And I know when I eat sugar and I eat a lot of carbs without protein, and just a lot of chips and processed foods and fast foods, when I eat those foods, I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. I feel bloated. I feel tired. I have low energy. I don't feel good in my skin. They just don't lift me up and make me feel fantastic the way real wholesome foods do. Okay. So when I think about a food, I actually stop and look at it and I think, is that going to make me feel better or worse? And I really stop and try to process that inside of my head, because that helps me personally make better decisions. And I know that helps a lot of my clients too, when they take the approach of, okay, how's this going to make me feel if I dive into the candy jar or the cookie jar right now, right? For me, those high calorie foods, heavy carbs, processed foods, and those sugars, they just make me feel horrible, bloated and uncomfortable. I feel inflamed, tired, guilty, right? Guilty always comes with it. And there's just so much discomfort in those feelings. There's discomfort in feeling bloated, uncomfortable, inflamed, tired, ugly, guilty, right? And that discomfort lasts for a really long time. So, if you think about it, if you're spending 10, 20 minutes eating chips, that, instantaneous gratification is only lasting for that 10, 20 minutes. Whereas the bloating, the uncomfortableness, the inflamed feeling, the tired, the ugly, the guilt lasts for days and days and weeks and weeks and years. And it's a vicious cycle. So, you have to really focus on, how do you want to feel, right? How do you want food to make you feel? And if certain foods are making you feel really bad and you're repeating the pattern, you have to take a step back, pause, and really say to yourself, how do I want to feel? Because I know how this food is going to make me feel, right? So right now, if you're watching this video again, make sure you tell me in the comments, what type of sugar cravings do you think you're having? Are they true hunger cravings or are they emotional cravings? Okay. I want to know from what you guys are experiencing, what type of cravings you think you're having. Is it true physical hunger, or is it something emotional, something that you have created a habit around? So when we have true physical hunger, one thing I will say is that the women that I work with who are over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose, they're generally not eating enough food. They've been dieting for a long time, doing Weight Watchers, paleo, low carb, keto, all of these different things, and they're always hungry. And that hunger is a result of not eating enough calories over a long period of time. And then what happens is over, the course of weeks or months, that lack of nutrition, that lack of fuel for your body sort of catches up with you, if you will. And so then all of a sudden you start having these crazy cravings, chips and sugar, especially sweets and treats. And it's because your body's just like, okay, I'm depleted. You have not filled my gas tank with enough energy. So now I need more fuel. That's what your body's doing. And I see this consistently with women who have been dieting a lot in their past and been doing various diets, or just not eating enough food and enough of the right food. They might be eating a lot of higher calorie foods, but they're not eating enough real foods like produce and protein and whole grains, the things that really do keep you full, right? So that's one thing to be thinking about. If your cravings are really coming from food, it's how much food are you eating? Are you really getting enough nutrition? I will tell you firsthand, I lost 80 pounds in 2009. So I have not been thin my whole life. It's been a struggle. But I will tell you firsthand that I still have to track my food today. I still have to look at how much I'm eating, because otherwise I don't eat enough or eat too much. And so for me, I just have to have those boundaries. And for many women, I find that when they're just trying to wing it, they're not really eating enough food and enough of the right foods, okay? And this leads me to talk about the emotional part of eating. If you're somebody who's an emotional eater, okay, what you may be inclined to do, which many women do, is they try to find a healthier alternatives, right? And there's plenty of healthier alternatives on my website. So let's say you love cookies, right? You love your grandma's cookies, but they're made with Crisco and, tons and tons of sugar, right? And they're not the best for you, right? And so what you go out and do is you look for an alternative cookie. And you're saying, okay, well, this is a better for you cookie. It's lighter. It's got a little less sugar, not as much oil. I'm using applesauce to replace the oil, something like that, right? You get my point. You're using this alternative. But what you may find if you're an emotional eater is that you're still eating just as many cookies, right? Which gets me to the point that, just because you're eating something healthier and you're having cravings doesn't mean that that healthier option is a good option, right? Alternative options are not necessarily good options. And the reason why is because you're not getting to the root cause of what's going on in the first place. What is causing the pattern to happen in the first place? What is causing you to eat the cookies? Many weeks ago, I had a phone conversation with a woman who was telling me, how she was eating Oreos all the time. She's like, I need to lose weight and I have Hashimoto's, but I'm just sitting here eating my Oreos as I'm talking to you. And I said to her, well, why are you eating the Oreos? And she's like, because I like them. I'm like, no, well, why are you really eating the Oreos? And she said, because I've created some kind of habit. And as we got talking, she related it back to when her husband left her. So sometimes we have to just stop and really look at what is the root cause? Why am I going to this cookie? And what you'll likely find is there's some connection back in your history where you started eating the cookie because you weren't feeling great about yourself. And then all of a sudden, every time when that feeling came up for you, you're eating the cookie. So until you really address the root cause of the behavior isn't going to stop. You're going to continue to crave foods and feel like you're out of control with sugar. I can't stop eating sugar. I can't stop eating sugar. And this is where no diet is going to fix it for you. I can hand you a perfect meal plan right now, right today, and I guarantee you in 2 weeks, you'll still be eating sugar because you haven't addressed the root cause of what's really causing you to eat the sugar in the first place. And it's usually an emotional behavior that just hasn't been met. There's something in your life that is unmet, unfulfilled. So that's your first tangible thing that you can start working on right now today to crush your cravings. It's looking at what is the root cause. And this means you have to sit down and do some thinking. You have to do some journaling, some inner reflection. It doesn't mean you need to go and look for a detox or a sugar, challenge or any of these things, new diet. You don't need any of those things. You're perfect the way you are. But what you do need is to do some internal reflection in terms of where has this pattern started? Why do I feel so connected to it? Why do I feel like I need to do this every time I feel this way? And you can even journal it in the way of when I feel like this is the food I go to. right? And you can actually clearly see that pattern. And if you don't know what it is, start writing it down every time it happens. You'll start to notice a pattern, okay? So step one, find the root cause. And you can find the root cause by journaling and inner reflection. Number two, to getting rid of those sugar cravings, track what you eat. And this ties in with what I said earlier. A lot of the women who are over 35 with 20 to 50 or more pounds to lose are not eating enough food because they're so used to following these diet rules. And what ends up happening after some periods of time, they start cutting out all these foods. They have all these black and white, all or nothing restrictions. And then they suddenly get to a point where they're eating too few calories, not putting enough fuel in the tank. And then over a period of time, your body just tanks out and it shows up as sugar cravings. And I see it time and time again. I even do it to myself sometimes. That's why I track my food, because I know if I don't eat enough food and hold myself accountable by tracking what I eat, I know I'm going to be diving into the chocolate. It's just inevitable. It always happens about 4 or 5 days in for me. For other people, it can go several weeks and you just may not be realizing it. So track what you eat. It's not an all or nothing mentality where you can't have any of those foods. You can't have a few, chocolate chips at night after dinner, but be honest about how much of it you're really eating and putting it into a food tracker or putting it into a food journal that you actually write down. I did this exercise this week and last week with a couple of my clients where they were telling me, oh, I'm so consistent with my diet and I'm not losing weight, or, I'm having all these cravings. That was, one of the two things. And so we did this exercise with a couple of them where they wrote down all of their calories that they were eating for the last 2 months. And guess what? Only like 3 days out of the 2 months did they actually hit their calorie goals. They were either way over, way under, something was going on that was causing them to have these insane cravings. And when they actually saw it written down in black and white, all of a sudden their mindset shifted. They were like, this is the problem. And they were holding themselves more accountable. And the other thing they noticed, which was great, was that they thought they were eating healthier foods. They thought they were eating real foods, produce and protein. They thought that was the majority of what they were eating. And then when they stepped back and really looked at the data for those 2 months, they said, wow, I can't believe how much junk I really was eating. I wasn't doing as well as I thought I was. So tracking your food and writing down what you're eating is a great way to hold yourself accountable. But my big piece of advice with this is don't make it mean anything, because a lot of women do this. They'll track what they eat, they'll write down what they eat, and then suddenly they feel bad, so then they don't want to feel bad, so then they don't write it down. Are you guilty of it? Because I've done it before. Some of my clients have done it before too, but it's not all or nothing. This is a data gathering, fact finding situation, just like you would do in your job. If there was a problem, you're trying to find the facts. So write down what you're eating. This is going to help your brain understand how much of that sugar you really are eating and are craving, and maybe where you have nutritional gaps in your day, where you can improve your nutrition, where you can improve your lifestyle so you can stop those cravings, okay? So those are my 2 big tips for you guys. Again, I am going to be doing a longer training on sugar cravings in the next week or so. So if you want to get in on that training, click the link above this video to get invited to that training. It's going to be a live training, not on Facebook. So if you want to come to that, please click that link and come join us. So now I'm going to answer some of your questions live. I've got quite a few questions today. So if you do have a question while I'm reading these off and answering them, feel free to drop them in the comments. I love hearing from you, love helping you. So here we go. So first question says, I'm having a hard time cutting out the sugar and portion control. Okay, so this kind of goes back to everything I just said. Write down and track everything you eat. There's tons of food trackers out there. Use MyFitnessPal, Lose It. Any of those apps are all free. Start putting in your food, start holding yourself accountable and seeing how much are you really eating. And then the other thing with portion control, never eat things out of the bag, never eat things out of a box. They always get measured out or counted out to hold yourself accountable. And if you really do have a hard time staying away from certain foods, get it out of your house, okay? Next question. I'm slowly, steadily gaining weight. It's so slow and I keep fighting it. I keep moving my goal weight higher because I can't seem to get the goal weight I want to be at. Okay, so I'm not totally clear on what's happening here. I don't have enough details. So if this is your question and you're watching, please let me know what you mean. Like, what's been going on? How long have you been trying to diet? Have you been in a calorie deficit? Are you trying, so you're obviously trying to lose weight. Are you in a calorie deficit? How long have you been in that calorie deficit? You never want to be in a calorie deficit more than 6 months. So the other thing is, what's your diet? Are you getting a lot of produce and protein, or are you eating a lot of, heavier, more fast food, processed foods, boxed foods, packaged foods? Or are you doing things from scratch, cooking things from scratch? I don't know. I have limited information based on what you told me in your form, so I'm not really sure. But to get, your weight moving along, you have to, number one, have a calorie deficit, and number two, have balanced insulin, leptin, ghrelin, and cortisol. So if those 4 hormones are out of whack, you're not going to be losing weight. And those 4 hormones, again, are balanced with the foods we eat and our lifestyle. Okay. So those 2 things. So if you want more help with that question, feel free to reach out to me, give me more details about what's going on with you, because I'm not totally sure what's happening based on what you put in the form. Let's see, we have a few more things here. Let's see. Computer's a little slow right now. So this one says all of the above. So again, I don't know what all of the above means. So if you're struggling with cravings, emotional eating, consistency, motivation, you say all of the above, but what's your goal? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to maintain your weight? Are you trying to build muscle? Are you trying to, run a marathon and build endurance? What are you trying to do? Because if you're lacking motivation, you're lacking consistency, you're having emotional eating and cravings, what's your goal? Right? I can only help you guys if you give me enough information to help you guys. So when you fill out the form, don't just say all of the above. Give me more information. Are you over 35? What's your age? Are you premenopausal, postmenopausal? Did you just have a child? Are you breastfeeding? Tell me the details. All of the above, I don't know. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't have enough information. Just think about this, guys, when you ask these questions of me. Think about it as if you were asking your doctor. If you went to your doctor and said, hi, I'm dealing with sugar cravings, and they knew nothing about you, they had never seen you before, your doctor would say the same thing. Give me more details, okay? And the same thing here. The more details you can provide me, the more information that I can give you to help you. And like this one, it says, snacking at night. Okay, so I don't know what your goal is. What is your goal? Are you trying to lose weight? Because snacking at night isn't a bad thing if you're, at a happy weight, right? I don't know. So if you're just binging at night, I don't know. So again, give me more details in terms of what specifically you're struggling with. Are you trying to lose weight? Are you working out? Are you somebody who's at your goal weight? Are you already a healthy eater? Or are you somebody who eats a lot of processed foods and you're snacking at night? There could be a lot of reasons for why you're snacking at night. But the first thing is maybe a place to start is what we talked about earlier. Start journaling the root cause of why you have created a pattern around snacking at night, and start tracking what you're eating for more accountability and awareness of your habits. Okay. So next question says, trying to lose belly fat over 60 years. I walk 20,000 steps a day. I try not to snack, only been 3 days, but crave sweets after lunch and supper. I follow a grain-free diet. Okay. So 60 years old, walking 20,000 steps a day, trying not to snack, good, but craving sweets after lunch and dinner, and I follow a grain-free diet. Okay, a couple things. How much water are you getting, right? When we have cravings later in the afternoon, dinner time, lunchtime, that kind of time frame, it usually is dehydration. So one, are you drinking enough water? Should be half your body weight in ounces. most people aren't drinking half their body weight in ounces unless they're really paying attention to it. The walking is great, 20,000 steps a day, but walking is not necessarily the thing that's going to help you with the belly fat, right? It's a great thing to do. Walking is so good for your health. It is great for fat loss, but it's not the #1 dial mover for fat loss. So when you're trying to lose belly fat, calorie deficit is king. You have to be in a calorie deficit, and so do you know how much you're eating? And if you don't know how much you're eating, then start tracking what you're eating. Get yourself into a slight calorie deficit. And the fact that you're craving sweets after lunch and dinner, this could be a pattern you have created. So again, look for the root cause. Or it could be that you're not eating enough food earlier in the day, especially if you're walking 20,000 steps a day. Probably not eating enough. Okay, so this is where tracking can just be really invaluable, guys. And then following a grain-free diet. Guys, you can follow any diet you want to. Grain-free, low carb, high carb. The studies show you can eat carbs and still lose weight. High carb, low carb, people lose the same amount of weight on both of those studies. So if you're following a grain-free diet or a paleo diet or whatever you decide you want to be on, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. And as long as those hormones, insulin, leptin, ghrelin, and cortisol, are happy, you will lose weight. And they're happy when you eat enough protein produce and get great lifestyle habits in, okay? So whatever your diet you're doing, it doesn't matter for belly fat. Belly fat is all about the calorie deficit and also those 4 hormones being happy, okay? So again, if you're watching this and you have a question you want me to answer live, post it in the comments below. I'm happy to answer it for you. I have one more left. This question says, I've been struggling with my weight on and off for several years. Can't seem to do anything to drop the weight. I'm over 55, and 2 years ago I did paleo. I had high cholesterol. My cholesterol went down after doing paleo, but then I stopped doing it because I didn't lose weight, and now I don't know what to do. Okay, so again, it doesn't matter what diet you do. Weight loss is about a calorie deficit. So you have to eat slightly fewer calories, and you have to have balanced hormones, insulin, leptin, ghrelin, and cortisol, in order to lose weight. Those 2 things have to happen. So even if you're doing paleo, you have to be in a calorie deficit. And I'll tell you, most of my clients aren't super successful with paleo losing weight. Their numbers come down because it's a healthier diet. You're eating more produce, you're eating more protein, you're eating more healthy fats, right? So it's very common to see high blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, all of those numbers come down when you're doing something like that. But it's very common as well to not lose weight, because some of the foods on that paleo diet are high calorie. So unless you're tracking your calories and in that slight calorie deficit, you're not going to see the weight loss. Okay. So it really does. It's the common theme in today's, questions is really getting into that calorie deficit and making sure that you are tracking what you're eating and getting to the root cause of the patterns that are causing you to eat foods, to eat sugar. Like you just can't stop eating sugar. You're uncontrollably eating sugar and you just can't stop. It's getting to the root cause. And it's probably, you're going to find it's going to be some combination of not eating enough food or not eating enough of the right foods and some kind of pattern. And this is why, guys, I say that mastering nutrition is so important. Most of us know that healthier eating means more produce, more protein, but most of us don't know how to do that to promote fat loss and to promote stopping the hunger cravings and the sugar cravings, right? Because most of us know that eating more fruits and vegetables is going to promote better cholesterol, lower blood sugar, better blood pressure, all of those things, right? But most of us are not eating in a way that actually promotes the weight loss plus the reduction in the cravings. And this is what I work on with my clients. We master the nutrition so that you can lose weight and you're not battling cravings. There's no cravings, right? And there is a real method to this, right? If paleo worked, it would be working for everyone. And again, it all comes back to insulin, leptin, ghrelin, cortisol, and then also that slight calorie deficit. Okay, so that's what we have for today on sugar cravings, guys. Again, if you're watching the replay later on and you have a question, or I answered a question and you want some further details, put it in the comments. I'm happy to help you out. Again, I am going to be doing a larger training on sugar cravings in the next week or so. It's going to be a live training, so make sure you sign up for that wait list to get into that live training. The link is right above this video, and I hope that helps you guys give some insight with your cravings and what some of the things that might be going on. You know, be honest with yourself. Sometimes we're in denial about why we're stuck in a certain situation, or sometimes we don't want to admit to ourselves that these are the things we have to do to get the body we love and feel great in. Okay, but these things do work, and I see it time and time again with my clients. Again, feel free to reach out if you need more help. I'm always here to help you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.